Hi everyone, welcome to my talk today, 5 ways to influence nursing practice. Hope you're all well. I've got a bit of a cold, so do bear with me. So today I'm going to highlight some key ways that you can influence practice, 5 ways, and I've also included some early career nurses and newly registered nurses who have influenced practice in some way over the last few years. The session is aimed at students, registered nurses, nursing associates, support workers as well. We can all influence practice on a day-to-day basis and support others. I hope you enjoy the talk, and do check out my YouTube channel. It's free to subscribe. Support and career development for nurses. Lots more videos coming out this year, and it's really focusing on practical application. So I hope you enjoyed the talk. So why should we nurses be influencing practice, or why do nurses want to influence practice? You may be frustrated with what's going on locally or nationally. As nurses, we're critical thinkers and we should be questioning, and if we may want to improve or change using different interventions. We might want to influence practice through our support, clinical supervision, and professionally developing and helping others, and also being involved in projects that influence practice will support your future career progression, your personal statements, and CVs as well in the future. These are still working. Hopefully it'll move on to the next slide. So how can you influence nursing practice? So firstly, conducting research. Research is a really powerful vehicle to influence practice. I've been involved with lots of projects over the years, but also keeping up to date from when you first register and being research active is part of your role. You will be providing care where you are scoping and reviewing the evidence base and using standards that relate to up-to-date research. You may want to pursue a career in research, and you can link to research education leads and local newsletters as to what's available. And there is a lot more research funding, scholarships, internships and fellowships available from when I started my career. And I will do some talks in the future about different career pathways. See the online RCN Foundation apply for funding and National Institute for Health and Care Research for funding opportunities that are available. Quality improvement and service improvement projects or service evaluations are important, where we can evaluate a quality intervention or change prior to rolling it out across the service. And the best projects really are the ones with simple ideas. Think about Hello, My Name Is, which has been embedded across thousands and thousands of institutions and has had billions of online engagements. Using a team approach as well is so important with quality improvement projects. I have got a YouTube video on quality improvement and service improvement projects that's helpful for dissertation students that are doing such projects, or registered nurses thinking about doing a project. So do check it out. Publishing using your voice. So writing an article or a book even, and writing isn't for everybody, but sometimes you can do a collaborative piece where you your advice and your knowledge and skills can be utilized within that article, and you can do co-authorship as well. And I've chosen this, but I haven't been paid at all. But I thought it's a good example. Be a Leader in Nursing, a practical guide for nursing students, which is coming out in May 2022 by Heather Henry. But that's been co-designed with students. So I love that, where people collaborate and work together. And you may so you could collaborate on a journal article, for example, but you could potentially write a chapter for a book, and that could be the start of your writing. You can, if you don't want to write, you can still do presentations, you can do posters, you can go to study days and just talk about your work. or with newsletters as well. You sometimes have local comms departments where the writers will write about your project. So if you've initiated something in practice, contact them and then they can highlight it so it can be shared across a hospital trust or a community trust. Another great way of starting your publishing or writing is to blog your nursing story. And people use blogs to talk about their journeys, but also to promote debate. And I've just picked up on some early career. There's lots of blogs out there and some fantastic ones, but I haven't got time to mention everybody. But Brian Webster, the Newly Registered Nurse, is a fantastic blog. Charlotte Jakab-Hall, Diary of a Chief Nurse, Junior Fellow, and Joe O'Gorman, Nursing Chapters. And I won't go into the details of their development since they were students to registered nurses, but you can go and hunt them out, and in the future they may change, but they just give some current examples of blogs that are really interesting to read. And then shared decision making and policy development. So Jessica Sainsbury's is a registered nurse, and she's a research and policy associate at Florence Nightingale Foundation. And if you look on her Linktree, she's done a lot of publications and currently is looking at shared decision making policy work, focusing on clinical supervision and early career support. So you could get involved with influencing practice through linking with key institutions and people and networking and seeing what's out there as a student or newly registered nurse. I think for any one of you out there as well, you can start small. I started small. You might not want to, you might be a fantastic writer, but I developed my writing really, and it was only over probably after about 10 years I really started writing articles. And I'm not a massively prolific writer. When I went into education, I was a lecturer practitioner, so I didn't have the time. I'd be working half my time clinically. So, but I have published a range of articles, and what I would say is I started with a letter in the Nursing Times. So this letter informed Help Wanted on making post-basic, which was the term we used for post-registration then, education courses. And I knew I wanted to become an educator, but I was given the wrong information. So I wrote this stroppy letter to the Nursing Times, and interestingly, every time I've written, somebody's contacted me about the publication. And here, the head of the degree at the time for nursing, because I was an old style nurse, didn't do my degree, contacted me, and she gave me so much good advice, and she mentored me then as well. So it was a fantastic thing to do, really, to put the letter out, and then it led to this amazing relationship over the years. And then the top right, Carol Links with Europe, that was networking and sharing an experience. We set up a digital resources for neuroscience nurses across many European countries. I can't remember how many it was many years ago. And we created this sort of European network, and I was the European rep for the British Association of Neuroscience Nurses. So it was through that role that I became really interested in sort of networking with education across Europe. And then in my 50s, I started a PhD and I wrote a blog, and I've never written a blog before. I got asked to write it. And, you know, I enjoyed it. It's a shorter piece of writing. You don't have to have references. And I wrote about failing my nursing finals and starting a PhD at 50. So I've had a real odd journey, probably, I would say, with my writing. Not your typical academic writer. What I would say is I started off with shorter pieces. So I wrote a piece for I can't remember which journal it was, but when I did the neuroscience course, I wrote a piece on looking after a patient with Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, and it was a case study, and it was a very short piece. It was only one page of the journal, but it shows that it's not always about having a massive literature review. Your voice counts, and your experience, and you know, if you've got something that you want to say, get it out there. Don't let your confidence hold you back. And then another one was a patient's poem, and this happened because I was caring for a patient in neurology, and he had Parkinson's disease, and he wrote a poem, and I got to know him really well, and I said, oh, could I use your poem for when I'm teaching students, which he agreed to. He's really gladly gave it to me. And it was about the fact that when people came into this 4-bedded bay, that because he wasn't laughing, because it affected his facial muscles, and he looked quite blank. Inside he was laughing, but he had this expressionless face, and how it made him feel. It really affected me. So I wrote a little bit about that, and that was another shorter piece, and I used his work, and I'm really interested in using art in education. So that was really interesting, but again, very short pieces. And then went on to sort of write up work that I did when I was a sister, an audit that I think it was one on evidence-based practice and one on an audit, and then, excuse me, and then a literature review on intentional rounding, and that came about because I started to question, as I said at the beginning, David Cameron, the Prime Minister at the time, and the government brought in a sequin target. I think it was £50,000 for hospital trusts that implemented intentional rounding. And at the time, when I looked at the literature, there wasn't much on it. It was mostly from America. So it amazed me how they were saying that all hospital trusts had to implement intentional rounding, and there wasn't much of an evidence base. So I wrote that up as a literature review, and then doing some service improvement projects, and I'm hoping, now I'm doing my PhD, to write up my research if I finish my PhD, and literature review. So a really varied history with publications there. So hopefully that will give you some inspiration in the future. So publishing and using your own voice. You don't always have to write. And a really inspiring, lovely lady, Dr. Ruth Oshikanlu, set up Nurses and Midwives Talk. And to date, Ruth has interviewed 380 nurses and midwives from over 30 countries, detailing their contribution, and they're on videos, and you can find her on Facebook if you put Nurses and Midwives Talk, and on Twitter. I'm not allowed to put links on these slides when you're doing the YouTube, so but do check her out. And then YouTubers, so a really fantastic YouTube channel, Claire Carmichael, Registered Nurse. And Claire was a registered nurse, and she graduated in 2020, and she went on into GP nursing, but she basically shared her journey, and her channel is very much about support and sharing the ups and downs to try and support others. And another way is through podcasts. So Nursing Matters from the RCN Professional Nursing Committee is fantastic. There's lots more out there, but I've just picked on some of my favourites. Retaining the Passion, Journeys Through Nursing was set up by Claire Manley and Craig Davidson, and they host and interview people to come in and talk on their channel, and they talk about nursing and key issues affecting the nursing profession and society, the wider society. So that's a great one. And On the Ward, and this is more focused on mental health, and John Barry Waldron has now, where did I write his little bit here? So it's in a secure psychiatric hospital. He's a registered mental health nurse, and it challenges the myths and taboos around complex mental illness in the United Kingdom. So you know, in all of these different media that they're using, social media and different forums, they are influencing practice, and it just shows that you don't necessarily have to write, is what I'm trying to say. Third thing is to develop academically and professionally. So if you increase your post-registration knowledge and skills, it will enable you to further influence practice in your role to support others. So as you develop your knowledge, and become more senior when you first start in a role, you can still support junior staff, but by increasing those knowledge and skills, aligning post-registration courses, you're going to develop transferable skills to support others, and also it'll aid your future career development. Florence Nightingale Foundation, the Leadership Academy and Student Leadership Programme, co-funded by the Council of Deans for Health and Burdett Trust for Nursing, are fantastic. You'll see a lot of videos on their websites and online on YouTube as well of students and early career nurses, and obviously people that are experienced, and there's a lot more leadership programs later as well that you can access. So throughout your career you can develop those skills further. So the fourth way you can influence practice is to network and collaborate with others. So find out what groups are already out there locally and nationally. Professional groups, charity groups, there might be support networks, and become a part of a local or national working group or forum to inform and evaluate future recommendations, policies, standards, or to influence change in other ways in practice. You can contribute to national campaigns, you can link to the unions, for example. You've got the Royal College of Nursing Safe Staffing, UNICEF have got campaigns linked to pay for nursing currently, and these will always change. I mean, this talk's being done in May now, 2022, but the principles won't change. You can set up your own local group or network or social media online forum if there isn't one already, and talk to people that have already done that. And finally, we're nearly there. Number 5, but one of the most important, help and support others in your role. When I was a nursing sister, I would encourage all levels of staff to share ideas, resources and experiences with others. So that a support worker that's a senior support worker should be supporting new starters, for example. And you can support students, local recruitment events. So as a recruitment and retention, divisional recruitment and retention lead, the newly registered nurses, there's some absolutely love going to recruitment events and talking about their role, and students really want to hear their journey and the support that they've been offered. You could act as a speakers for school, as an ambassador. You might want to help orientate, induct new starters, or support senior nurses, helping them with the rota if you like doing maths and enjoy the IT elements. Teaching, educating others, developing online resources, teaching packs, posters. You might want to run a support group, develop documentation, or act as a link nurse. And I'm not saying to do this all when you first register at all. You need to consolidate and just enjoy your first year. But it might be that you want, you enjoy it and you want to take on some of these elements and influence practice in some way. And often managers will give you the time to do it as well. So if you offer to do an induction pack, you should be getting your time back. That's in work time. So, but these are just some key pointers for your future. And an example, somebody that's networked and collaborated and acted as an ambassador is Ian Costello, and he's Health Education England lead nursing associate ambassador, and he was a former healthcare assistant and registered nursing associate in the Learning Disability and Forensic Service, and he's now topping up as a registered nurse, but he's supporting nursing associates. And so it really shows the networking, collaboration and supporting and helping others. One thing to think about when you are influencing practice and looking at maybe projects, publications, service improvement, or you want to set up a group, is to make sure that you link with the correct people and let them know, and you contact the appropriate leads and managers to gain authorization. And obviously if you're doing ethically approved research, you need consent. So and you may need consent as well to set a group up in an institution. So always check with your manager and leads. And the other reason I would say is that it might be that somebody's already set a group up and that you can link in with that group or change the remit of your group slightly. Also, it's very important to adhere to institutional media and communications policies. So you'll see those in your policies and procedures, and that might be university or a trust, hospital or community trust. And adhering to national ethical, professional, legal and data protection standards. So just to bear that in mind with anything that you're looking to do in the future. So I hope you found this talk helpful. Do put any comments in the YouTube channel if you've got any questions, and you can DM me on Twitter or on Instagram or my website. And I hope that you enjoyed the talk today.